But let's start with some endless Ruben Amorim speculation because there's a lot of United fans out there who want to know what he's going to be doing.
Yeah,
He came in on Monday.
it's finally there. Yeah.
He's finally there. There's a question mark about his staff. They all joined. They're still, I think, the work permit, because they haven't said his work permit has gone through. Anyway, we know it's going to go through. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it will go through. So let's talk about what a lot of people are trying to figure out, because the way he's been figured out, let's face it, most people, unless they're in Portugal, are not hardcore sporting tactical nerds.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, he plays 3-4-2-1, where the two are two number 10s. You know, we saw them do this on television. How is the Manchester United lineup and the personnel they have, how is that going to work?
It's a good question, Gab. It was good to see him in Manchester, saying hello to everyone, massive smile on his face, shaking hands with every people that he came across with, which I guess...
And he spent a good amount of time with Ruud van Nistelrooy as well, which I think is also...
sacking him, you mean?
Well, he didn't sack him. No, but what I'm saying is, there was some speculation would Van Nistelrooy stay, but I'm saying is, like, they sat down, they chatted.
Yeah.
They're clearly leaving on good terms.
Yeah.
Which I think is a real positive for both. And it's a real positive about the vibe at United. Can we say something nice about United? Yeah, that's, hasn't always worked out that way.
No, but it's super positive to have him finally in the building, and I think that you can already see the charisma, and that he will hit the ground running straight away, start working now. And the question, I guess you're right, will he keep the same formation as he did in Sporting? He's already said himself that he won't be able to do at United what he was doing at Sporting, because it's just a different context, different squad, different league, different everything. So that he will have to adapt. Does that mean, for example, going from a back three to a back four? Does that mean, playing slightly more cautiously maybe than what we saw at Sporting, where they committed a lot of players forward, and it didn't matter so much if they were a bit exposed defensively because they were still so good than the opposition that it would not be too risky, but that could be more risky in England. So there's a lot of question marks. Personally, I think he will keep the back three. He will keep that 3-4-2-1 formation. And I think there's a lot of players currently in the Manchester United squad that fit that formation really, really nicely.
You think so? Oh, that's interesting, because my impression is that actually there aren't that many people who necessarily fit the squad. I mean, if we assume it's going to be sort of a replica, certainly at the back, if you go back three, if you assume Lisandro Martinez left side, De Ligt, do you play him on the right of the three, or do you play him in the middle of the three?
I play him on the right, and I play Euro in the middle.
Okay, here's the Euro thing. The guy hasn't kicked the ball yet. He's 19 years old. He's just coming back.
Yeah.
I think longer term, next season, I would expect Euro to be there stably. He's in training. He's back in training, I think, reportedly. But this idea that, it's first game, I think you need to ease into it, because you don't... Lindelof, shorter term?
Johnny Evans, that's perfect for Johnny Evans at his edge. We saw against Aston Villa when they got that 0-0 draw, when Ten Hag was massively under pressure, that playing a bit deeper for him was not a problem at all.
So one of the things about Sporting is the two center backs on the side are actually the ball-playing center backs, right? They step into midfield and stuff, and they do a lot of passing. If it's Evans and Lisandro Martinez, I mean, I don't know how you feel about the defenders. I think
Evans as the deeper of the three, so central.
So you would have De Ligt on the right.
Yeah.
So that also means then De Ligt having to come out into the wing area to go and chase down little nippy wingers. I guess
you will have a wing back as well there, plus your defensive midfielder on the right hand side. So I don't think De Ligt on the right of the back three is a problem at all.
The other big talking point is the two number 10s. We don't have a ton of time in our first segment, but if you had to guess.
Well, one is Bruno, obviously, that's perfect for him. The other one, I don't think there's a place there for Garnacho or Rashford, but maybe for Ahmad, maybe for even a Mason Mount if he ever plays football again.
How about that? He's ready. He's on his way back, man.
So Zerbi, I would like to see Zerbi in that position.
All right, Jules, let's continue our kind of United thought exercise here. And again, on the record, I'm not sure he's going to go back three straight away. I still think you want to bet in. You need to win points, move up the table.
Yeah.
I think you can insert a lot of your concepts there's a tactical formation, and then there's concepts of how you want to play, and they don't always necessarily overlap. So I think you can introduce those with a 4-2-3-1 if that's how you want to play. Obviously, you can interpret it differently, perhaps in the way Ten Hag did. But let's continue. Let's try to think longer term about this 3-4-2-1. We were talking about our center forward. Let's move to the front now. Our center forward is Højlund, I'm assuming. Yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of the two behind, we're talking about moving a winger there, essentially, or Bruno, or Mason Mount.
Yeah.
So on paper, or you mentioned Zirkzee, I'm not sure about Zirkzee because Zirkzee is literally the only other center forward you have.
Yeah.
So, and Højlund's not going to play every minute of every game, right? The issue with Bruno is those two, when I watch Sporting, those guys have to cover a lot of ground, and they're actually quite involved in the press. I'm not sure that is Bruno's strength. So there's been some suggestion. Maybe you play Bruno deeper.
Yeah, with
in the two
of Ugarte or Casemiro or Mainu.
Because if you look at the two midfielders that they used, generally, they're dynamic, cover a lot of ground, but you always have one that's more defensive and one that's actually attacks a lot more.
Yeah, that's
and comes through the middle.
Possible.
That could be Bruno.
Yeah.
In terms of the wing backs, and I think this is dangerous it's a dangerous game to play when we say he's imagining, right? Because if you see Sporting now, the guy they have that Kenda guy,
the
17-year-old, he's a winger. He was always a striker, right?
Yeah.
And yet he's playing as a wing back. So I think a lot of people are looking at this. Okay, well, United have two attacking wing backs in Dalot and Mazraoui. Surely he's going to play them there. I don't think he's going to view it that way. From what I read from people who know more about Sporting than I do, also his wing backs aren't symmetrical. He generally has one that goes and attacks and is essentially a winger. The other wing back often comes inside, and I'm thinking Mazraoui, for example, is the kind of guy who he was a central midfielder early in his career. We saw him even play at number 10 in the Europa League. He's somebody who maybe on the right could be the one who comes inside, especially if you play Ugarte Casemiro. You want a passer there. That could be a role for him.
Yeah.
On the left, I'm wondering, it was suggested that longer term again, somebody like Amad Diallo might be a better fit. Reason being, Amad Diallo's left-footed. So, and he often, and on the left side, he likes to have, or he's had in Kendon, somebody who can go and deliver a natural left foot to deliver crosses rather than somebody coming inside. I mean, this is all speculation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, Luke Shaw is the best left wing back that this squad, if he's ever fit and can play, that this squad can have anyway. So I think he'd be perfect there. If you don't have Luke Shaw, I'm just not sure in the Premier League you can afford to have a winger playing at wing back, simply because obviously the lack of defensive ability will be very, very obvious, will be targeted. And even if you play really with the back five, I think that's a massive risk that I'm not sure I would take personally. I would much rather have Dalot and Shaw, Dalot, Mazraoui and Shaw as my wing backs than trying to make Garnacho a wing back or Ahmad a wing back or Rashford a wing back or whoever else, like he did at Sporting with his young winger, because again, Sporting is the Portuguese league, and I think this is very different, but he might try. And we've seen in the past some things like that kind of worked. I just think that if you already have the right players to fit in there, why would you try something different?
Well, I think the argument might be, are those the right players that...
Well, I think Dalot, Mazraoui, Shaw are much better wing backs than anybody else in that squad, naturally.
But we use the term wing back in a certain way, where to define the position, there's different ways to interpret it, right?
But you need some people who still defend, man. You can't just have Garnacho and Rashford that use two wing backs. That doesn't make much sense.
Okay. I'm not suggesting, by the way, having
Garnacho.
Garnacho.
I'd be very surprised. I'm all for it if you want, but I'd be very surprised.
What I'm saying is, but this is what he's done at Sporting. He's taken.
But again, when he says I need to adapt, I can't do at United what I've done at Sporting. Surely this is part of the conversation.
Okay. When I go back to his first team, that his first Sporting winning side, when he had like sort of João Mario as like the number 10, as was one of the two tens and stuff. The first thing that comes out is you have extremely high energy players,
high intensity. Yeah,
and that is another. I think if you want Mark against Bruno, I'm wondering if maybe the solution is, especially if you go with Ugarte, some combination of Ugarte, Casemiro, Kobe Mainoo is another one who,
could play higher up.
although
Deeper.
if I don't know the Kobe Mainoo in terms of intensity, in terms of ability to cover ground, Kobe Mainoo is not a top tier athlete the way Ugarte is, for example. Kobe Mainoo is more about quality.
Yeah,
Again, he's 19. I mean, maybe you can develop it, maybe you can't. I think that's going to be possibly a tricky. The Mainoo Ugarte in the two, I think that's going to be a little tricky because if you start asking Kobe Mainoo to go and cover a ton of ground and go to the side and
Yeah.
whatever, Kobe Mainoo at 10, if you ask him to press, I don't think that's possible. I think
I mean, Marcus Edwards was a key player for Sporting under Amorim, and he's never been that massive press machine either. So, I think he can also work if one of your two tens is not the most intense, like Edwards was. I still think that can work.
and then you have the issue of resource allocation, right? Because United, because they're the team of wingers, you know, Rashford, Garnacho, Diallo, Anthony.
Yeah, what do you do with them?
You kind of have to sit them down and say, listen, in my team, you either become this wingback person that we talked about, that Gab and Juls talked about,
Yeah.
and Jules thinks you can't defend,
Yeah.
prove him wrong, or you become a number 10 who gives me a lot of energy and really helps Hoyland when we press from the front in that way. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be up to them to adapt. I mean,
Yeah,
we've only seen Garnacho play as a winger, run in straight lines. It doesn't mean this has to define who he is as a player and as a person, right?
No, true.
Rashford, we think, I mean, he's played centrally as a forward. Can he play centrally? I think when he started, he played in the 2 as well with Van Gaal occasionally. I mean, could he be a 10? Can he reinvent himself? This is, I think, the big challenge for a lot of these players, that if this new system does come in,
Yeah.
they're going to have to adapt.
Yeah, sure. The only thing is when you're 14th or 13th in the table and you need points, like you said, and you won't have time to work because you've got games every 3 days with your beloved Europa League, then I think
Yeah.
it's tricky. If you have plenty of time, I don't know, like let's say an Eddie Howe to move Joy Linton from number 9 to
Midfield.
a midfielder number 8, as well as they did, I think you need a lot of time to work with those players. I think, unfortunately for Amorim, the last thing he will have is time to
Yeah.
work on things. So I think that makes it harder. Of course, you can try to shape Rashford in a different way, or Garnacho, or Ahmad. Anthony, I've lost faith in. I'm not sure what I can do. Or like you said earlier, Gabi, you just go back to a more traditional 4-2-3-1 where maybe people fit more already in the squad, and keep your principles, but just move them from what you've done at Sporting into a back four. The only thing is, he looks so dogmatic. He looks like being a very dogmatic coach. I just wonder if he's ready to give up that 3-4-2-1.
That's the challenge. And also, he's a younger coach, obviously. And we know that a lot of coaches, when they're young and are successful initially, they're very dogmatic. I have to tell the Carlo Ancelotti story
Yeah.
of saying, like, I don't need Zola because I'm going to play a 4-4-2 and he can't play on the wing. And, so, and then you kind of go on this journey. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes and he accepts he needs to be less dogmatic straight away. I wonder if we're not going to see maybe a 4-2-3-1 or maybe a 4-3-3 even, albeit with Bruno playing deeper, and somebody else kind of learning the 10. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is imperative that they move up the table. It is for, I think, essentially 2 reasons. One is obviously the financial side of it. They were very close to breaching profit and sustainability rules.
Yeah.
It's going to impact what they can do in the summer. Now, it is true that the whole squad, their salaries go down if they don't qualify for the Champions League and blah, blah, blah. And that's designed to negate this possibility. But still, you need wiggle room.
Yeah.
It's easier to track players if you're in the Champions League, sponsors, whatever else. And secondly, the clock is ticking on Jim Ratcliffe. He does not have this team in perpetuity.
Yeah.
At some point, the Glazers are going to come knocking and saying like, all right, what do we do now? So, so it is important, I think, and we might see a more pragmatic one. I just want to round this out by looking at Rob Dawson wrote an excellent piece on our website, laying out his 5 priorities.
Yeah, like the to-do list.
The to-do list. One is to pick his wingbacks.
Yeah.
This is based on the assumption that it's 2-4-2-1, and if he does go down that route, then I would agree with you. If it is wingbacks, maybe it will be Mazraoui and Dalot straight away.
Yeah.
Evans as a placeholder until Lenny Yoro is ready.
Yeah.
Maguire, Lindelof, no?
Yeah, maybe. No, maybe.
You're making faces.
Right. Yeah, because I'm not convinced, as you know, that I'm not the biggest fans of theirs. But yeah,
I think he played with Lindelof. Ruben Amorim did.
At Benfica?
Yeah.
Maybe.
With a very young Lindelof. Find a place for Rashford.
That might be tricky.
Now, if we expand it to find a place for Rashford, could be on the bench, could be at another club.
Yeah, true.
Because I think Amorim only takes his job if everything's on the table. It's not like he comes in and I don't believe anybody at United said to him, oh, but Rashford has to be in the team.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, there's no way. He would not have taken this job without it. Develop Højlund, obviously no-brainer.
Yeah,
I would argue
there's potential there.
Develop Xerxes as well, since you just spent a lot of money on him.
True.
Okay, turn Old Trafford into a fortress.
Please.
I think he means galvanize the home fans, bring the feel good. I think we're pretty sure he's got that under control. I think the fans are ready to go and support Amorim and United.
For this new era.
And then finally play with a pattern, which,
Yeah, the style would be important, but surely, as we've said, one of the most dogmatic, young, bright manager in European football coming to Old Trafford with his ideas, with his principles, with all that style that he has, very defined. There's no doubt that it might take a little bit of time, especially if he changes formation. But inevitably, very soon, we'll see his path on, his touch on this team for sure.
What I would caution a little bit, when I hear play with a pattern, and you hear dogmatic and so on, Bruno Fernandes does not naturally fit into a pattern. And when you ask him to do pattern type stuff, you lose a lot of what makes him a phenomenal player. The ability to improvise and so on. So I think, again, and given that Bruno just signed that enormous contract extension, which I thought was absurd, giving him that deal at that point when he had 2 years left, I just wonder, again, that's going to be another balancing act. I just wonder if, deep in his heart, Ruben Amorim said, I would have felt more comfortable if we hadn't locked ourselves into Bruno. But time will tell. All right, enough United. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Premier League referee David Coote has been suspended. No, not because he changed his mind about the Matthijs de Ligt and Danny Ings incident, West Ham versus Manchester United. Although for me, that would have been grounds enough for suspension. But because video has emerged of him or possibly his doppelganger, this hasn't been confirmed that it's him, calling Jurgen Klopp a bad word in conversation with a friend. And another video later of him snorting some kind of white powder. It looks like white. Well, I mean, it is white powder. It may not be that white. Maybe it's paracetamol.
Yeah, or sugar.
It's normal to snort sugar up your nose.
First I thought it was some sort of AI thing. Deep fake. It was not. I thought you can have all your opinions, and I'm sure referees, other managers, players, pundits like us have their opinions on other managers, other referees, other players, etc. We don't like everybody, which is true. I think a lot of people in football hate a lot of people too. And if you're saying it in private to your friends, okay, you can do what you want. Just make sure that one is not filmed, and if it's filmed, that it doesn't come out. I mean, he was a terrible referee, I thought. I've always thought how bad he was. I never really understood why he was still refereeing in the Premier League as recently as last weekend in the Liverpool-Aston Villa game, for example. But yeah, it's such a bad look for the Premier League, for PGMOL, for Howard Webb, for David Coote himself. That's it.
And it's his friend taping him. Some friend, that one.
Yeah,
right?
good friends.
Yeah, you can't have this. You have to have an appearance of propriety. I think he's done. It's just not a good look. You know, you're professionals, and I'm sorry, you're held to a different standard than you or I would be because you represent something. You represent authority.
Yeah.
With Coote, the worst thing, just to wrap this, is you can never put yourself in a position where you become blackmailable.
Yeah.
So I don't care what you do, but never put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
And that's the position he's in.
Yeah. Claudio Ranieri is set to take over at Roma again after the dismissal of Ivan Juric. Gab, you wrote a book on Ranieri.
I literally wrote the book on Ranieri. Yes, that's right. He met with Roma, with the Friedkins here in London because, like I said, that's entirely normal, right? He lives in Rome. They own Roma, but no, let's come to London. Let's meet in Golden Square in Soho.
Yeah.
And then he came back. He was greeted by fans. It's not official yet. Should be imminent. Probably will be by the time you hear this. It's some sort of short-term solution through the end of the season, I guess. I don't know if the Friedkins don't have the runway because they're thinking of Everton. I don't know.
73 years old he is.
73 years old, as he says, like I'm the luckiest man in the world because I'm from Rome. I'm a Roma fan, and I got to play for Roma. And he presumably won't be booed. But I'll tell you who will be booed and who's not popular. It's the Friedkins. I don't know how he's going to get on with your friend Ghisolfi.
I don't know because apparently he was not part of the process of choosing the new manager as the sporting director. Which
entirely
is
normal. I don't know how much longer that guy's going to be around. And of course, there's no chief executive either. So I don't even know who signs Claudio Ranieri's paychecks.
Good luck, Claudio. Good luck.
Ben White reportedly out for 8 weeks after undergoing surgery. Jules, Mikel Arteta didn't need this.
No, he didn't. Let's see, what the official verdict is, I guess, when the club says something or Mikel Arteta says something after the international break before they get back. It would be really bad news if it was a 2-month layoff for White.
Tomiyasu and Calafiori are close to coming back.
Well, at some point they will come back. I don't know when, but White, who had a few niggles, was coming back, and him and Timber on each side were the two starting fullbacks for now. So if you have another one out, you'd have to tinker again if you're Arteta.
Or Timber, as the case may be.
Yeah. Real Sociedad sporting director Roberto Olave is leaving at the end of the season. Gab, how soon before he gets linked with Arsenal?
I'd say right now.
Yeah, hang on. A Basque sporting director and a Basque manager. Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, also, he was at Real Sociedad with Mikel Arteta, apparently. I didn't know this, but that's what I've read. I think it's inevitable. He is pretty highly respected, but also I think his role was just diminishing at Real Sociedad, which is part of the reason he's moving on. I think it's important that Arsenal find the right director of football. They're going to take their time with it. But I don't think it's, 2 + 2. And again, good management. Don't let Arteta pick the director of football.
No.
This has to be a decision that's made above Arteta's head.
Yeah, it will be.
And I think that's critical. Jules, we not done because we got more quick hits.
Yes.
The Nations League returns tonight. England kick off away to Greece in a few hours as we record this. But I'll ask you about what Harry Kane said after no fewer than 9 players pulled out with injuries.
Yeah. He was not happy at all as the England captain, as you know. He said England comes before everything. It comes before your club. And that some players started to drift and he doesn't like it.
Do you like it?
Okay. So historically, the November international break, before the Nations League was invented or created, when we had friendlies or qualifiers, whatever it was, historically, players didn't really show up that much then because it's after a really big period of games. It's before an even bigger period of games.
Especially in England, yeah.
Yeah, especially in England. I can understand some have the little niggles. It's not choosing your club over your country. It's just sometimes common sense.
Well, the thing about this is if England lose this game or whatever, England might not get promoted, which you can say, it's not a big deal. It's just a Nations League. Yeah, it's not a big deal. With a lot of English things, like it becomes a big deal once you start winning. Remember, like the European Cup was not a big deal. The World Cup was not a big deal here in England, right? Until they started actually realizing that it was. The players are under pressure from clubs, I think. I think that's the reality of it. And not everybody has the backbone and the standing of Harry Kane.
Yeah, true. On Monday, we told you about how some Premier League clubs filed paperwork to seek compensation if That's a big if. Manchester City are found guilty in their cases over the 115 charges. Gab, the Times have revealed who they are.
It's not really a surprise they have
No.
to file this paperwork because there's rules about the statute of limitations
Yeah,
and seeking
6 years.
compensation. They are Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Tottenham. So essentially, they're going to argue if Manchester City are found guilty, if you were cheating, they're going to ask the question, well, you cost us our place in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You cost us
Title.
a title, whatever else. Let's put a monetary value on this. It's not 100% clear to me who's going to compensate them. Like, is it like, can they sue the Premier League and the Premier League gets a compensation from City? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of the big question marks. But yeah, a lot of lawyers getting rich. I think we both agree Real Madrid need extra bodies at the back following the season-ending injury to Eder Militao. Milan Skriniar seems to be on the naughty step at Paris Saint-Germain. He seems to be continually linked to a move. Does this not make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, I don't know how much money Real Madrid will have to spend in January to get somebody.
Take him on loan.
And yeah, take him on loan. Nacho's already said, listen, I'm not coming back. I love Saudi, i.e. I make a lot of money in Saudi. Leave me alone. Emeric Laporte is also always linked with Real Madrid, but he will cost much more than Milan Skriniar, and I don't think there will be a loan deal for Laporte possible from Al Nassr either. So, yeah, I think Skriniar...
Wouldn't this? I mean, I know he's been linked with Juve as well. I'm not a Skriniar guy. I don't think he'd be a good fit. But for Juve, but Juve are thinking Bremer, whatever, he played in Serie A. But if you're Paris Saint-Germain, like Lucho clearly doesn't like him. Why not? You send him to Real Madrid for 6 months. If he sucks, hey, that's fine. Well, you're gone. We haven't paid your wages 6 months. If he's good, then maybe you can get a feedback for him.
Yeah, that could work. One guy who had also been linked is Sergio Ramos. I mean, he linked himself, really. But now the talk is of him joining Memphis Depay at Corinthians.
Yeah, and go for the experience. Go have fun. Come on, like you're playing a great stadium. You get to play with Memphis. That's not a bad deal. But yeah, Real Madrid, no. Paul Pogba's suspension for performance-enhancing drugs ends in March, but he can train with a club from January. Jules, what's in store, and what did you make about some of that detail in the Court of Arbitration for Sport verdict?
I mean, first of all, right now, Juventus is still his club. They still not have agreed to terminate his contract or just to part ways in a very nice way. So January the 1st, I think, maybe not the 1st, but January at some point, he could return to training with Juventus. I don't believe Juventus would want to keep him. And I also believe that if he leaves Juventus and he becomes a free agent, then there will be a lot of clubs wanting him. So we'll have to see. But
I'm not a doctor, but he was found guilty of taking DHEA. And apparently it's very, very clearly this kind of hormone is banned. It's a very, very banned hormone. However, and again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if it's true. I'm assuming, even though the people at the Court of Arbitration for Sport are lawyers, I'm assuming they're telling the truth or have done their homework when they say that DHEA only has effect on females. Maybe there's something we don't know about Paul Pogba and he's biologically a woman. I don't think so. So this explains why his ban was reduced, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and also because he said
it was his wife's?
No, DHEA was part of that food supplement that he ate or drank, not knowing that he was on that list, but never to make him a better athlete or a better, more physical player, nothing like that.
So he took something that was banned, which was not going to make him better, and that is also essentially why he was banned. Okay.
Exactly. Rodrigo Bentancur will reportedly, Gabi, get a 7-game ban for his comments about his teammate Heung-min Son. Does that seem fair to you?
So a couple of things here. First of all, I don't like the fact that we know what his ban's going to be before it comes out. Yeah. People are obviously leaking things. By the way, I will speculate. I'm pretty sure I know who leaked the David Coote thing to the media, but I will share that off air. It's found to be an aggravated breach. He gave an interview in Uruguay where the person said, "Oh, can you get me a Tottenham shirt?" And he says, "Oh, do you want me to get you Sonny's shirt or his cousin, since they all look the same?" That is what he said, right?
Yeah.
And the racist implication is that all Koreans look the same. Now, this was deemed to be an aggravated breach. I don't know what more Rodrigo Bentancur could have done to mitigate it. Leaving aside, by the way, that It's the shirt. He's not getting you Heung-min Son or his cousin, who may have a physical resemblance. It's the actual shirt, but whatever. He apologized for it. Heung-min Son said, okay, look, we're good. The club took action. 7 games, for me, seems like a lot. This has gotten so much publicity. We know this is not an acceptable thing to joke about in public. I don't understand the logic other than, it seems so over the top. If you were fighting, if you were arguing, you were saying, it was just a joke. It's just banter. Fine. No, if you say just banter, you need to be educated. It sounds to me like he's been educated. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
It's time. It's texter time. Bad news for our intrepid hero this time. Jules, Lyon faced Ligue 1's financial control body, the DNCG, the dreaded DNCG, and they need to come up with 100 million euros or face relegation.
Yeah, it's a bad one. And when everything on the pitch seems to be better and they are closing in on the top 4 in France, they've been good, they've had good results. Then off the pitch is not good at all. I mean, Eagles had a statement out the other day saying that they needed more money to bring in clubs. We know Textor still has his shares in Crystal Palace, and we're not really sure what's happening with them.
Sell them for, I'm sure Blitzer and Harris was like, we'll buy them for 100 million.
They want to go onto the stock market, the Eagles group, but obviously it's not the best, I think, of position for them to be into. And I think that's quite worrying. We know they wanted to sell players like Ryan Cherky in the summer. They could not do it. And I think some of that money will have to come from sales. Real Madrid released their forward budget and apparently haven't included any income from the Club World Cup. Gab, some say that this is a power move.
So the forward budget, basically, it is kind of like they're predicting how much income they're going to get from different sources. And on the Club World Cup, it says 0, whether it means that or it's just not in there. Does this mean that they might actually threaten to not participate? That is the question on everybody's minds. Crossover madness, Jules. Zlatan Ibrahimovic joined Colorado Buffalo's quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who, if you don't know, is the son of Deion Sanders.
Surely you know.
He said he'd be successful in any sport that involves a ball.
Okay. I mean, Zlatan, as we know, in martial arts, is very good.
Which does not involve a ball, apart from your opponents.
Our football is very good. We obviously know that. It doesn't strike me as maybe the most coordinated when it comes to his hand and basketball. So I would probably say no. But he said, in basketball, I would be among the best, if not the best. Okay, Zlatan. I'm being honest. Okay, Zlatan. I'm an athlete and can do many things. It's not arrogance, but confidence. Okay, Ibra. I mean, at least if he was in the same room as Sanders' dad and son, who are not short of confidence themselves, as you know.
Or his other son, too. I forget his name, but who's a defensive back. This one's a quarterback.
And make a lot of wave, obviously, in college football. Then I'm sure that room full of ego and arrogance would have been great. And maybe that's why Zlatan just overplayed it a little, because let's be honest, he's not a good basketball player.
He's 6'4", right? So if
at least
he
had the size.
Well, but if he were playing, if he was being one of the best basketball players in the world, at 6'4", you can really only be a point guard.
Yeah,
right?
Small.
Or 2 guard, right?
You are small.
And I'm like, do we really see him?
No.
Like some sort of white chocolate Jason Williams type, No.
Definitely not.
He's more Adam Morrison, I think.
Real Madrid theme park. Yes, they have opened the theme park, if you didn't know, in Dubai. It's now so open. And Gab, you spent some time on their website.
Yeah, I want to go there in real life.
No, I can't believe you wasted some of your life for that.
So I'm glad Real Madrid have found somebody to pay them money. I presume I don't see what involvement Real Madrid, what they licensed to this.
Yeah.
Because I looked at it and they have all the same rides that you would have at a normal theme park.
Okay.
It's just that occasionally there's a Real Madrid logo here and there. This is judging from the experience, right? So you can... There's something called Factory of Dreams.
Oh, lovely.
Because apparently Real Madrid's youth academy is called La Fábrica.
La Fábrica, indeed.
Which is kind of new to me, but whatever. And it says here, step into a world of surprises at the Factory of Dreams, where virtual reality brings the magic of Los Blancos to life. It's an immersive experience that'll leave you feeling like you're part of the Real Madrid starting 11.
Ah, sounds good.
We should go.
Yeah.
Or, Jules, you know what else you can do? you can ride the Champions Bus.
I would love to.
Hop aboard the iconic white double-decker bus and take a tour around the city's landmarks, including the famous Cibeles Fountain. I guess they built the Cibeles in Dubai. I assume so. Channel your inner champion and celebrate like a superstar as you go on this memorable, fun-filled journey. Can you imagine being on the bus with a bunch of other loser tourists in Dubai? And wait, what about magic cleats?
Cleats, oh my God.
Step into the shoes of legends. Feel the power of the beautiful game. Lace up your boots and get ready to score that winning goal. This immersive football experience will have you cheering in triumph as you embark on a mission to victory. You can put on boots.
You can put on boots?
I honestly, I'm in. I think we should, you know what? You guys should invite us. If you were being unfair, if you were being a little bit mocking.
Get in touch with them.
Yes, get in touch. We will come. We'll do the show
from
the Real Madrid experience in Dubai.
Yes.
And I honestly think, Real Madrid laughing all the way to the bank with this because this is beyond absurd.
Incredible. Just to finish on this, do you think maybe because we don't know yet the TV right deal for this, we don't know who's going to show those games yet, maybe that's why Real Madrid thinking, hang on, we don't know for sure how much money we could make, so we don't include it in the budget?
I think that's the official explanation. But I mean, I think you expect that you'll still get something, right? Like,
yeah, true.
Because the other thing is, let's say the Club World Cup doesn't go ahead. Let's say it gets postponed. Real Madrid players will go on holiday, and then they're going to come back in July, and then they're going to play a bunch of friendlies, and then we're not going to do it for free. And if there's one club in the world that can arrange lucrative friendlies on short notice, maybe they could go to Dubai to Real Madrid's theme park and do it there. Yeah. I don't think they have any interest in going there ever, frankly. Sticking, though, with the Club World Cup, Inter Miami will reportedly be handed the A1 seed, which in World Cups goes to the host nation.
Yeah.
Are you okay with this?
Well, yeah, because they've won MLS Cup, haven't? Oh, hang on. Oh, I mean, come on. I understand why with the Club World Cup in this new format, first in the US, you would want Lionel Messi there. I get that, 100%. But come on, this has to be fair as well, Gabby. You have to qualify in Europe. Not everybody qualifies. Some clubs are missing out because the qualification system was pretty clear. You need your coefficient, or if you've won the Champions League in the last 5, etc., etc. Why is it different for MLS? I don't understand.
Europe had a clear system. South America had this weird coefficient system. I was with a big River Plate fan with last night who's got strong ties to the club, and he's kind of embarrassed. He says, the coefficient system was kind of rigged so that we and Boca could both be there.
Okay.
They're second and third in whatever coefficient system CONMEBOL drew up. In this case, in past World Cups, the host nation always gets a top seed, even when they're bad, like South Africa, right? They got a top seed. Or Qatar got a top seed too. I think the issue is, why did you pick Inter Miami to be the representative of the host nation? So then it's not the supporter shield nonsense.
No,
it's just say we pick Inter Miami to be the representative of the United States. You could have picked a USL team.
Yeah, you could have picked anybody.
That, I think, is what people really kind of struggle with.
Right.
The upshot, if people care about this, is there's 12 European clubs. I'm assuming they will probably, if there's 8 groups, I'm assuming 7 of them will be top seeds. Somebody won't be. Somebody will grumble. Somebody will grumble about this. Somebody will grumble. You're going to have some big South American team that's going to grumble because, oh, no, look, we're in a group with Real Madrid and Bayern or whatnot. So.
Oh, maybe, but at least you've qualified fairly, which is not the case of Inter Miami. But more Inter Miami, Gabby, for you. Elimination against Atlanta United, as we mentioned on Monday's show, who was only the 22nd best record in regular season, compared to Inter Miami, who were obviously the top in regular season. Shocked many, but what does that mean for MLS going forward?
So I actually think this is a pretty big test of where MLS are, in the sense, obviously you got a big Messi lift during the season. You got in terms of attendances. I would like some data nerd out there, and I know there are some at the Major League Soccer offices to come out and tell us, did it help the league as a whole? Like, in other words, because Messi's playing in the league, did it help interest, media attention, ratings elsewhere? And now we're going to find out, because with Lionel Messi out of the playoffs will continue. This was just the first round.
Yeah.
are people going to talk about this outside of whatever markets the teams are playing in? Is this going to be a big deal? That's a big question because the reality is, I think Messi has another year contract. Maybe he'll extend, maybe he won't. But Messi ain't going to be around forever, right? And I think this impacts that. It impacts the television deal, the global deal that they signed with Apple TV. It impacts a lot of different things. So I think this is a real test, and maybe MLS will pass this test and they'll come out stronger and say, like, yeah, Messi's a value added, but look at us, we're strong.
Yeah.
Or it could be the opposite. Roberto De Zerbi told us at the weekend that he was ready to leave Marseille without compensation if people were going to continue to be mean to him. He's still there. Everything is fine now, right? The club have said it's fine. We love you, Roberto.
Yeah, I don't know if everything is fine, but he's still there. He was never going to leave. We knew that. He just maybe wanted to.
But did he get reassurances from the club and from the players?
So. No,
did he get a cuddle? He's a cuddly guy with his little beard.
I'm not sure he really wanted the cuddle. He just what he wanted to make sure was that nobody would blame him for that humiliating defeat against Auxerre. And that's certainly exactly what's happening because it's all on the players apparently and on the club, nothing on him. So I guess that's why he wanted, probably.
But that game was on Friday. I'm assuming all the players left on Saturday, and so like he's kind of shouting in the wings. They're all
there's still a few who are not international. Yeah, there, but at least he's got a bit of quiet time now before the next game.
I guess he can hang out with Mason Greenwood. Exactly. He ain't playing international.
Exactly. The game between Besiktas and Maccabi Tel Aviv has been moved from Istanbul to Debrecen in Hungary. So that's in 10 days' time in the Europa League. And will be played behind closed doors. Gab, this comes after the violence that we saw in Amsterdam, surrounding the Maccabi's game with Ajax at the time. Are you okay with this change?
Yeah, I'm 100% okay. And then the reason I'm okay with it is that this isn't UEFA deciding to move the game. This is Besiktas, whose stadium is in right smack in central Istanbul. Gorgeous stadium, by the way, right on the banks of the Bosphorus. And they're saying, we don't want to deal with this. We don't want to deal, leaving aside the background and it's an Islamic country and whatever else. We don't want to deal with fans coming here, other fans taking this, possibly for our lines. We just don't have any reason to deal with this. We don't want to play the game here. Yeah. So they decide where to play it. Hungary is always happy to host games.
Yeah, they are.
But they're not even doing it in Budapest. They're doing it in Debrecen, which my Hungarian geography is not great. But I'm assuming is harder to get to than Budapest. And they're doing it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So I think this is done in a way to insulate this game as much as possible from the conflict. It's just a football match. I think I'm right thinking Maccabi Tel Aviv have lost every game so far. So in the Europa League. So I think Besiktas say it's a kind of a foregone conclusion. Hopefully we can, I say put this behind us. That is beyond sports pay grade, but at least we can insulate sport from this a little bit. Santos have been promoted to the Brazilian top flight. And so I guess it's inevitable that they'd be linked with one of their illustrious alumni, Neymar.
Course. Yeah, if his contract with Al Hilal gets terminated, which is one of the rumors coming out of Saudi Arabia, because he's been injured for a long time. He had a little setback and picked up another injury that would keep him out probably until the end of December. And we know that in the Saudi League, there's a break between the start of December and the start of January anyway. So even if he comes back mid-December, there's no games there for another 3 or 4 weeks.
Why do they have a break between December and January when you think it'd be a good time to be playing football in Saudi Arabia?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why. But they don't play. They certainly don't have any league games. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Neymar, at some point, who will turn, 32 in February, would want to go back to Brazil. And that would be a great idea. But before, he still has a few more months left on his contract with Al Hilal. So that would have to be sorted out.
So if he gets released and if he's fit again.
Yeah. Santos saying they have a contract in place for him to offer to him if he wants to come back.
Yeah, hopefully it's aside. I mean, like I'm just gonna say this, Neymar, if you're listening, and I know you're a regular listener. If you go back to Santos, I hope you do it with a team-friendly contract.
Yeah, sure.
I never understand why, having made all the money he's made, why he should. I mean, I'd go back for minimum wage if I were Neymar. With all the money that he's made, and not just the money, also the different charities, the foundations. He has this whole thing going on there. I mean, just do it as a gesture and to rediscover your love for football.
Yeah.
If this is what you're going to do. If not, it's a different issue.
FIFA have given a grant of $3.1 million to the University of Tennessee and Michigan State University to research and optimize pitches for the 2026 World Cup. Can you? I don't really understand this.
Okay,
So the pitches are bad in the US. So they
it's not
are.
that they're bad. This is really, really important. And this is going to become an issue during the tournament
Okay.
if they don't deal with this now.
Okay.
Because these are football stadiums. Some of them have grass. Some of them don't have grass. Some
Yeah.
of them have different types of grass. So they're all going to get grass for the World Cup. But we know from experience that when you suddenly lay grass in a stadium, it's not like all of a sudden it turns into an ideal football pitch. So they're getting $3 million. I guess these people have sort of...
Are they like grass experts in those
Yes,
universities?
these are big land grant universities who have presumably all sorts of agricultural gardening divisions. I don't know. But no, look.
The Ballon d'Or of gardening goes to University of Tennessee.
I think this is important,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
Every
I
year
want
at the
good
World Cup,
pitches
people
in
lose their
2026.
minds over the ball sucks, it's too light, it's too heavy, or
too
the
hard.
pitches are bad, right?
Yeah.
I want to take this out of it. I want to have a World Cup in the US. I want to have the best possible football pitches out there. And
Yeah.
if you have to get it to these like farmery nerds in Tennessee and whatever,
Sure.
it also strikes me because obviously Michigan State up north,
Yeah.
Tennessee closer to the south, different climates, different stadiums.
Very smart.
It's a big country.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're on top of this.
No, me too.
All
I was only joking.
Gary Lineker,
Oh.
who once played football and was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
He's leaving the BBC's flagship program, Match of the Day, which I don't want to say he's hosted for as long as I remembered because they had this
25
other
years.
fella before that, Des Lyon, because I'm old, so I remember the guy Des Lyon, this Irish-looking dude with a mustache who's very funny. And this is a big story here in England.
It is, yeah. It's the this cult TV show where they showed all the highlights of the Premier League games on Saturday night and Sunday night. And Gary Lineker, as you mentioned, have been presenting it for 25 years with great success. He was very good at it. And now he's 63 years old, I think. And the BBC decided, or together they decided not to continue. So he will still host the BBC coverage of the 2026 World Cup in the US and Mexico and Canada, as we've just mentioned, with lovely pitches and lovely grass everywhere. But from next season onwards, it will be another presenter who we don't know who yet, but it won't be Gary Lineker anymore.
Okay, so for all these people who don't watch the BBC because they don't live
Fair
in this
enough.
country, the reason I think this is relevant was also that Gary Lineker, he's on there. He's the actual host
Yes.
of the show. He's not there as talent. He's a guy who was a top athlete who's made the transition to becoming a top presenter
Yeah.
as well, and who I think is also, some people suggest, outspoken on a lot of non-sports issues,
true,
and some
yeah.
people suggest that might be part of the reason why
Yeah.
he's moving on as well.
Yeah. Genoa released their third jersey this week. Gab, you don't like publicity stunts, but I bet you like this one, though.
I do. I did for a minute because it speaks to my heart. It takes me back to, some people know that I was a big fan of professional wrestling, not so much WWE, although this was a WWE character, this whole presentation, because their third kit is all black, like, all these unimaginative clubs with their publicity stunts. Oh, let's have a all black third kit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really creative. But because it's all black, they somehow got the Undertaker to go and he filmed the thing in the intro and it takes you back. So yes, it's a publicity stunt. It got my attention. I will not be buying the Genoa third kit, all black third kit.
They can send you one if you want.
No, I already have a Venezia. I have a gorgeous Venezia
Venezia was
all
lovely.
black third kit.
Yeah.
Or just third kit. It's the proper kit.
Yeah.
I'm against third kits to begin with. I think people extract enough money from fans as it is. I mean, some teams have fourth kits and fifth kits.
Yeah.
Like, it's silly. Andy Carroll can't stop scoring, Jules. Relaunched Bordeaux. Although I see they're still 8 points back in Ligue Nationale 2B. This is the fourth tier.
So
I thought they'd be dominating.
No, they've got a game in hand as well, so not that far. And remember, the first two games were quite shambolic
Because they didn't have any players.
Yeah, exactly. They struggled to even put a team up. That's why they have those games in hand that they could not play at the start. But Carroll is on fire, 7 goals in his 8 games for them. I mean, you would expect him to be in the French 4th division where they play like, they amateurs. They really are amateurs players.
The mighty Saint-Malo they're top of the table.
Yeah, so
They're
there's
the
a lot of
guaranteed playoff spot.
there's a lot of clubs that you've never heard of, and I probably don't even know where they are in France. But yeah, we just wanted to say again that Andy Carroll and Bordeaux are on their way up, which is lovely and what we want to see. And you know who the Bordeaux owner is, obviously, our friend Gerard Lopez, who owns also another club, Boavista in Portugal, and meanwhile, Boavista reportedly facing bankruptcy, Gab. I know Gerard Lopez is your friend, but from Lille to Bordeaux to Boavista, he seems to have a little trail of destruction there.
Yes, he does. I don't know what to say. He speaks very well. He does very well. Maybe he's
Very
desperately
charming.
unlucky. He's very charming. Maybe that's why he's good at getting people to loan him money.
Yeah.
And then there's debt.
Loads of debts.
Obviously, Lille, they found an owner. They were bailed out. Bordeaux, not quite so
Not
lucky,
yet.
although I don't think that's entirely down to him. I think some of the other investors got very nasty very quickly. Boavista,
Yeah.
it's been bad. I mean, he's been there since 2021, 2022.
yeah,
So
something like
that's
that.
enough time, right? And it's just sad to see what is, I think, historically Portugal's fourth biggest club.
definitely.
The second club from Porto.
Yeah.
Just to see them, facing insolvency.
It's bad.
Wissam Ben Yedder received a 2-year suspended sentence for sexual assault, but he's still facing a separate case where he's accused of rape. Jules?
Yeah, that first sentence was yesterday. He's in it's big trouble. I think we've said that before, but really struggling for the last year or so. Not so much on the pitch because he was still good with Monaco last season, but off the pitch with a lot of issues with drinking, alcohol.
He's in psychiatric treatment as well.
Yeah, so
reportedly.
part of that sentence is also that he has to go to rehab, which he's been to already, still going now. His wife left with the children, and there's this separate case, as you say, Gabby, in the question of rape and accusations of rape for him and his brother from last summer after a night out in a nightclub. I've always liked Wissam a lot, and he's a great guy, but the last 2 years he has been chaotic and messy for him, and this is really serious stuff.
I think if he's found guilty here also, or in any shape or form, that 2-year suspended sentence will then kick in.
Of course.
And I don't see there's a way back here.
Definitely not. Deportivo Riestra, a club in the top flight in Argentina, faced Vélez Sarsfield, which nothing wrong with that, normal game. And they made a substitution after 50 seconds, Gab. That's really early in the game. Why was that?
Because
Incredible
Deportivo
story,
Riestra, there's a guy who's a streamer in Argentina who's apparently very popular. His name is Ivan Bujajeruk. I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. But he goes by the name Spreen.
Prim, that's right.
Okay, so you're familiar with him, of
Well, I
course.
saw the story. I didn't know him before, but I saw the story.
He was named in the starting lineup for this game, and he didn't touch the ball. And after 50 seconds, he came off. Apparently, the Deportivo Riestra coach told the Vélez coach, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to play this guy up front. You don't have a problem with it, do you?" And it's only going to be for less than a minute, just a publicity stunt. That the guy said, "Oh, well, then if it's this guy, just go ahead and play him for the whole game." It's funny to a point. Deportivo Riestra are known for publicity stunts, for getting a lot of publicity. It's funny because I was not familiar with them, and I looked up. They played in a 3,000-seat stadium, which is like literally 2 blocks from the Nuevo Gasómetro, where the historic San Lorenzo play in Buenos Aires. So clearly they've done well to get up there. This is the Primera is not their natural dimension. Other people are very angry about this. Juan Sebastian Verón,
they are.
he came out and he says this is disrespectful to the game. And yeah, I kind of think it is. I mean,
I agree, man. This is
if-
not good.
what would happen? I mean, I'm purely hypothetical, right? What would happen? I don't want to give Sir Jim any ideas, right?
Imagine.
No, but seriously, like, what if he says, like, "Oh, let me have a bidding competition, right? And let's either see if Jeff Bezos or some other billionaire wants to come and play at Old Trafford for Manchester United, and he starts a game and then I sub him off after a minute." Like, but look, we've raised all the. I don't understand why you would do this.
That's mad.
It really cheapens your club. From what I can tell, this guy didn't do anything interesting or funny.
No?
He'll go in a stream and be
I
like,
mean,
"Haha, look, I did this, so
Yeah.
what?" Like, I
It's
don't know.
terrible. It's such a bad look.
Equatorial Guinea and Ivory Coast are the two most recent teams to qualify for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. Jules, of the traditional big boys, it looks like they're all pretty much going to make it, except for Ghana, or at least have a good shot to make it, who are in serious trouble.
Yeah, I was trying to find, I think 10 countries have already qualified.
Yes, there's 24 in total.
24 in total. And so the likes of Algeria, you say Ivory Coast, without even playing yet in this international break have qualified, Nigeria, etc. But Ghana is the one really struggling. They had a really slow start of their campaign to qualify, and really AFCON without Ghana would not feel right?
I mean, we've had
But if you
AFCONs
don't
without
qualify,
Nigeria,
yeah,
with
very
all due
true.
respect to
But if
Ghana.
you don't qualify, you don't
If
qualify.
you don't qualify, you don't qualify.
Exactly. FIFA will ask IFAB to approve further trials of the Football Video Support System, or the FVS, which is like a kind of VAR, but for the coaches to contest. It's a challenge system for coaches to contest one of the referee's decisions.
That's right. I call it VAR light.
Yeah.
Because it's different in the sense that it's designed for leagues that can't afford VAR. And there's two aspects to it. First of all, you don't have all the cameras and the semi-automatic offsides and, Anthony Taylor and David Coote and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
You don't. You just have usually the TV feed, 3-4 cameras, and the coaches are the ones who can challenge a decision. Now, obviously, you presume the coach will have some assistant next to them looking at the screen, looking at the replays. And if he says, oh, no, this is wrong, or I never touched him, or it could be a player on the pitch saying, coach, challenge this penalty because, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they're going to have, they have 2 challenges per game. This has already been trialed. It's going to be done, I think, at the women's U17 and U20 World Cups. I think it's a good solution, like I said, for countries that don't have VAR, that can't afford VAR because there are costs associated with it. I don't know that I would want this at the highest level where VAR is already there.
Yeah, on top of VAR, or with VAR, you mean?
Yeah, because I like the challenge system, the principle of it, but I don't want to have a bunch of people there just spending their time looking at, and did they have the right pictures and have the right pictures in real time and whatever else. You need to be trained on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to turn it into that. But, I think so for some countries, they might say, you know what, this is sufficient. We like this better. Former president of Ankaragucu in Turkey has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Jules, he's the guy who punched referee Umut Meler.
Yeah.
Now, ugly scene. The guy will never work in football again.
Yeah.
But the club pointed out 3.5 years in prison because it was deemed to be an assault on a public official.
Yeah.
That's excessive.
Well, maybe you can find it a lot. I think he's right. Absolutely, he's right. Like when you see the video again, I watched the video again. It's horrendous, really. And I know it could be a fight in the street after a night out where everybody's drunk or something like that.
But it's a public official. So I think the analogy would be like if you go out and you you walk down the street, you see a cop and you hit him in the face. Do you go to prison for 3.5 years?
Well, I think you could go for a long time.
Should you?
I think you should.
All right.
And I think he should, and I think that's right. And I think that's because it's Turkey, and as Jose Mourinho said, there's a lot of things that happen in Turkey that would not happen in other places.
You know what? Can I just say something about this? You're taking a lot of liberties, Jose.
I mean,
you're a guest in this
Jose
country.
Mourinho.
Whatever, but I don't like it when he talks like that. He doesn't need to do it.
Yeah. But
it's not your country. You're there. You've accepted the country. To go out, it plays into stereotypes. I mean, I thought he left all this years ago when he went to play in Palermo and made jokes about the mafia. Like, just leave it. You don't need to do this.
Yeah, well, he did, and I think this time they got it right for me. Gab, Divock Origi is still just 29 years old. He's still a football player. If you had forgotten about him, what is he up to?
So he's still under contract with Milan. Obviously, he was on loan at Forest last year, where I think he might have scored an FA Cup goal and nothing else.
Yeah.
When he's not in the squad, but obviously clubs still have to go and give you a place to train and support you. And he's like, no, I don't need that. I'm just going to trade myself with my own personal trainer on my own time. And he's just hanging out. He has to be in Italy for a certain amount of time because he has certain tax advantages to his contract, which he would lose if he were to go home to Belgium. So he's just sitting there hanging out. I'm not even sure. I'm sure he's training well with a personal trainer, but there's a completely different thing between training at a training ground. There was talk about him going and joining Milan's B team and whatever, and at least training with them. He's not even doing that. I don't know how much interest this guy has in continuing to play football.
Still young.
I think he'll go down as maybe Milan's worst signing of kind of the new era, right?
Yeah.
When they brought in the analytics nerds and the scouts and they reformed everything. It seems crazy that this guy was scoring goals in the Champions League.
Incredible.
But I also want to say, he was a highly touted youngster. He went to Liverpool. He could hardly get a game. He was always coming off the pitch. It should be a warning sign that there's something there that's not quite right.